Darren says, I'm calling you because our two auras are apparently linked together, and you are acting as some kind of funnel for me to extract energy from the magical plane. My problem is that you will undo this link at once, the spirit says. Do you understand? Look, even if I want to, the link was done subconsciously ever since my birth, Darren says. I don't think it would be possible for any of us to cancel it of our own free will. Even if you could just listen to me for a second, there are only a few things I want to ask of you, then I will leave you alone. Unacceptable, the spirit says. No earthen creature will extract my energy without my permission. If you will not cease your actions immediately, you will be faced with severe consequences. Oh, lighten up, Jiren, Araka says. It's been 5,000 years and you're still just as uptight as I remember you. That voice, the spirit from the magical plane says, I haven't heard that voice in thousands of years. Could it be truly Araka? You got it right on the first try, Araka says. I guess they don't call you enlightened for nothing. I should have known that you would still be alive after all this time, says Jiren, the spirit. You always were particularly hard to kill, just like a cockroach. They have cockroaches on the magical plane, Jiren says. Wasn't everything there supposed to be non-corporeal? I already told you that almost every earthen race has an equivalent on the magical plane, you twit. Araka says. That obviously also includes all manners of animals and insects. After 5,000 years, you finally found a way to make contact with the magical plane, did you, old hag? Jiren tells Araka through the transceiver. So what's next then? Are you planning to come back, finish what you started? Because I have been itching to kill you ever since the first time we fought. I could definitely use the practice. You're in the mood for a fight, then I have just the thing for you. Araka says, what if I told you that the reason for the banishment of all the females... Wait, hold on. If all the female spirits on the magical plane were banished... do they like start families and stuff? Like on the earthen plane, like men and women would start families. Like did they also used to start families and now all the female spirits are just gone? Is that it? Because that's interesting if that is the case. So far I've not heard about any spirit families, but still. For the banishment of all females of the civilized races from the magical plane was a lie fabricated by the god of time, the god of death and the god of fate. What if I were to tell you that I have unquestionable proof that Selkram and Ulrak themselves had used my soul absorption technique in the past? You're talking about the spell of yours, which you used to absorb other spirits, Jiren says. If I recall correctly, this was the reason invoked by the three gods you mentioned that convinced all the other gods and powerful spirits to agree with the plan of banishing the rest of the women along with you. Remember that they came up with some very weak proof that only women of the civilized races could cast spirit absorption spell, and that there was an imminent danger that others like you could start popping up every second. The other spirits were so scared of your spell at the time that they brought their arguments easily, but I always thought that there was something off about their explanation. Araka says, in fact, one of the main reasons why they needed to send the other female spirits along with me is because Memphir didn't know of a way to banish me specifically from the magical plane. Believe it or not, as long as you know what you're doing, it is actually easier to tamper with Magium to banish half the spirits from the civilized races to the other plane of existence than it is to single out just one spirit and send that one to the earthen plane. You only need access to the tremendous amount of energy which was provided, of course, by all of the idiotic spirits that they were able to con. So what you're saying is true, then this information may well turn our whole world on its head, Jiren says. The war that could have started because of this could cost thousands of lives, maybe tens of thousands. Is this what you're after? Do you want us all to kill each other for your entertainment because you're no longer here to do it yourself? What do you think? Why do you think I would agree to be part of your scheme? Don't be like that, Jiren, Araka says. If you were any other spirit, I would preach to you about the injustice of all the female spirits that have essentially been sentenced to death for the... Yeah, essentially, because most of them died. Because there are very few banshees on this world. Sentenced to death for the wrong reasons. But you and I both know what you really want. You want there to be chaos just as much as I do, maybe even more than me. Isn't that the real reason why you founded your little group of enlightened warriors? At first you were fighting against the gods, but when I began my rampage, you immediately switched targets and began going after me. Now you may have fooled the others into thinking that you were doing this for the right reasons, but I think you know very well that this was never the case. The real reason you wanted to hunt me down was because you liked the challenge of it. You were only fighting the gods initially because you perceived believed it was a hopeless battle, and when I showed up, you immediately recognized my strength and decided to oppose me instead. Tell me, what have you been doing these few thousands of years? Have you ever managed to recreate the feeling that you got when you were fighting against me and my allies? Has there ever been a moment when you felt more alive than then? No, Jiren says. After your banishment, I did go back to fighting the gods, together with my enlightened warriors, as you say, but it was never quite the same. Eventually, my group disbanded. In the following years, the gods gained more influence than ever. There's hardly anyone left who challenges the supremacy now. Even for someone as me, it would be nothing short of suicidal to openly oppose them at this point. You see, Araka says, this is exactly what I'm talking about. What you are now is only a hollow shell of your former self. What I'm granting you is the opportunity to go back to your days of glory. As soon as you will let everyone know the truth, there will be great divide forming between the gods faction. It will make them weak. It will provide you the much awaited opportunity to reunize your enlightened group and to once again become a force to be reckoned with. Think about it. Is this now what you've been looking for your entire life? You are still as shrewd as ever, I see, Jiren says. At least I know that all those years spent on the earthen plane did not make you any less cunning. After think about what you told me, you will provide me, of course, with undeniable evidence of support of your claims. Naturally, Araka says. I even met Selkram a week and a half ago, so I can personally confirm that the spirits are indeed still absorbed by him. Verifying this fact will be trivial. You'd met with Selkram? Jiren asks. How? He materializes in the earthen plane for a short while every time when he does his rituals, Araka says. This is how I was able to speak to him. Anyway, before I give you all the details that you need, I have one additional matter to discuss with you. It's about the humans who is linked to you, the one that you spoke to earlier. You can't be serious. Jiren says, are you really going to ask me to help these primitive creatures? Hey, we are not primitive creatures. Your face is a primitive creature. Just to be clear, you're only calling Darren as primitive creature, or the rest of us too. That's not a very nice thing to say. You should try to be more polite. All three of these options are stupid, but I'll go with the first one. My face is up, Jiren starts to say, but then he interrupts himself. Araka, did you hear what he said? These savages cannot even form coherent sentences. You want me to help one of them use magic? You would be helping him, of course, but in doing so, you would also be helping yourself, Araka says. What are you talking about? Jiren says. Have you noticed something strange going on with your magical powers in the past? Let's say 45 years or so, Araka says. Have you not found it harder to concentrate on casting spells, for instance? Or maybe your magic has not been as strong as it used to be. Yes, but I assume that it was all happening because of my old age, Jiren says. Are you telling me, do these people even get old? Jiren says, are you telling me that all of the problems I've had for the last half of a century were because of my link to that earthen creature? Indeed, Araka says. Oh, but don't even think about trying to undo the link, because I can guarantee you that it can't be done. Best case scenario, you will only end up hurting yourself by removing it. Worst case scenario, maybe will end up dead. So what do you propose then? Jiren says. The reason why you and the human in question are both having trouble with your magic is most likely because the link was done incorrectly, Araka says. You already know that his soul aura has this particular problem, so the chances are very high that the same thing happened with the link between the two of you. Luna, you told me that Flower had some sort of medicine to fix Draren's nausea in the earthen plane. Can you tell me what the medicine was meant to do exactly? I don't know if this means anything to you, Luna says, but Flower told me that the purpose of the medicine was to align the spinning essence with the spiraling blob. Isn't that right, Flower? Oh, right, Flower told him. Yeah, that's what's it for? Flower says. Okay, so in other words, the link is slightly out of position, Araka says. Jiren, I believe that for someone of your skill, it should be easy to do the appropriate readjustment as long as you know what to look for, correct? I think so, Jiren says. Perfect, Araka says. And I recommend that you get to work immediately. If you get started now, you should normally have it done by tomorrow morning. What is this morning you speak of? Jiren says. I can see that your complete lack of interest for anything that goes on in the earthen plane has not changed one bit. Since the last time I spoke to you, Araka says, to answer your question, a morning on the earthen plane is when the sun rises a sun first rises in the east, in the sky when a new day begins. Do you remember how a long time ago, after the gods began to heavily involve themselves with the people of the earthen plane, we began to borrow the time measurement units like days, hours, minutes, and years? Well, a full day is measured as the time between two sunrises. A year in the same is the same time that it takes the large spherical earthen object that we are currently standing on to rotate around the sun, revolve around the sun, or at least that's my theory around it. Most people here seem to think that the sun is the one rotating around us, that the earth was standing on just one long flat surface. So I try not to discuss the topic with them in order to preserve my sanity.